Week 11 is in the books, so it is now into week 12, but we'll go over the schedule here for week 11, give you the recaps of the games. So on primetime Thursday night football, we had the Kansas City Chiefs falling short to the Denver Broncos. You see Whedon with 264 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Trent Richardson with almost 100 yards there, with Kevin Smith getting 43, so pretty good rushing day for them. Denver not having that great of a rushing game, but it just came down to Denver coming away with, I guess, more field goals. Just 2 TDs for both, but 2 field goals for Denver and 1 for Kansas City. So Denver goes up 5-5. Chiefs fall 3-7. Jets have a 38-point win over here against the Titans. They go up 5-5 on the season, not the season they've been wanting, especially with all their talent. You see Smith with 260, 2 TDs, 1 interception, whereas Freeman had 2 turnovers, but also 3 TDs, 247 yards. Portis commanding 139 yards with 20 from Andre Brown, but Portis there had 3 rushing touchdowns, and Jonathan Stewart with 88 yards. Now, Greg Jennings, the star receiver, I mean, it's him and Calvin Johnson fighting for who's going to end the season with the most receiving yards, and then he got 2 TDs there. He's been kind of shy on TDs this season compared to the other ones. Moving on to Houston taking on Buffalo. Houston gets their 7th win of the year. This is them extending their lead in the AFC South. They squeaked by 1. I think this was one where Buffalo went for the game winner and lost it, so it was a coin flip for Ponder to see if he could win the game, and he did not. You see the 220, 1 touchdown, 1 interception for Ponder, but then 229 for Jackson and with 2 TDs. Deji Karim getting 95 yards and 2 TDs. Then we have the Colts going 6-4, so a game behind the Houston Texans. Jaguars fall to 1-9. This time they benched Nick Foles for Colt McCoy. Colt McCoy going 151 yards, 1 TD, and 2 interceptions. Not a great game for him. The Colts are a little bit more of a challenging team in this division, so no surprise there with the struggle. Colt does run for 40 yards. He did have that 1 fumble. And then DeMarco Murray had 47 yards. You see Quinn just being a game manager, 1 touchdown, 178 yards, but 81% completion. Chris Johnson got injured, and so he had 13 yards, and Leon Washington had a good number, had a few carries there for 22 yards and 1 touchdown. And then 91 yards there for the Steve Smith Jaguars. Then we have the Giants falling to the Panthers. So Giants are falling in their division a bit. They're having a hard time this season so far, only going 500. Panthers also struggling, but now back to 500. We see Flacco with 128 yards and 2 TDs, but 168 yards by Booker with 32 by Tate. So that's a very good 200-yard rushing game for the Panthers. Then you look at the Giants there, only 13 yards from Ryan Matthews. He couldn't get it going. Major problem for their game there when you don't have a good rushing attack. Then we had the game of the week. This was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 9-1 versus the 9-0 Patriots, and the Patriots shut down any of the, hey, the Buccaneers are a good team and they're going to beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. The Patriots keep their win streak alive with 350 yards from Brady and 5 TDs. Even Charles got a touchdown with 85 yards. Just an absolute tear. Patriots definitely look like the team to beat, and they're on track to possibly being having an undefeated season. Pittsburgh squeaks out against Oakland. We see 6-4 Steelers, now the 4-6 Raiders. Matt Ryan gets injured. He's out for about 3 weeks. So Matt Moore is going to be the quarterback. The Raiders do sign David Carr to be the backup. I debated whether I start Carr or start Moore, but I think I might start Matt Moore because he did have a very good end to the game. He almost came away with the victory. But the Steelers here were a bit too tough. We see Roethlisberger with 248, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. MJD with 2 rushing touchdowns as well. So just too powerful for the Raiders to surpass. Cleveland wins the Battle of Ohio. Bengals fall 4-6. Browns go up to 8-3. They had a 3-game losing streak. Now they're on a 2-game win streak. Pryor with only 125 yards, but also 76 rush yards with the TD, really putting him into that next level caliber quarterback. Definitely the Michael Vick of this century, or this decade, excuse me. And Cam Newton is also very similar, but Pryor does tend to rush more than Newton. Croyle is 199 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I don't know if I'll start Brock Osweiler sometime this season, but I think I'm going to give most of it to Croyle. Maybe until the team is proven to be at a season loss, because they're still kind of in it, but they have to have some luck there with some other teams losing to be competitive. Peyton Manning comes away with a victory over the Cowboys. They had 5 games straight with Joe Webb, but they decided to put Russell Wilson back in because Russell Wilson is 1-3 as a starter and Webb is 1-4 as a starter. The fact that they were 2-7 going into this game, I figured their season's over. Give Wilson the majority of the season remaining to give him the experience, see if he can chip away at that 12 interception deficit he had in those first 4 games. But it was not enough, even though Wilson ran 61 yards. And when Wilson runs, the Cowboys do well. But Peterson only had 37 yards rushing and a TD. Wilson had good passing yards, 268. But, of course, it wasn't enough for 138 rush yards by McGahee. Peyton Manning doing very well, 68% completion, 2 TDs, 2 INTs, but 214 yards. Then you have the Seattle Seahawks falling to the Minnesota Vikings, who are starting to really rise here with RG3. There he takes care of the ball with no interceptions, a TD, whereas Eli Manning is just having a tough time. He's 2-2 with TDs and interceptions. Marshawn Lynch did get 94 yards on the TD. We see Doug Martin, RG3, Pierre Thomas, all sort of getting average running game, 64, 44, 26, 2 TDs for Martin, 1 rushing for RG3, but a commanding 35-21 victory. Then you've got the Philadelphia Eagles trouncing the Detroit Lions. We see McNabb, 233 yards, 2 TDs. Gore with 83 yards. McNabb also picks up a rushing TD. Tannehill having a mediocre game. Reggie Bush, 66 yards, nothing impressive there. Lions just struggling here under new head coach Rob Ryan, going 3-7. Then we got the Rams. Andrew Luck is out of luck this game, loses by 10. We see Breeze, 271 yards, 2 TDs, an interception, 72 yards by Foster. Also punched in 2 TDs for Foster as well. We see Andrew Luck running with more yards than Tim Hightower, not having much success there for Tim. Then you've got the Saints, 3-8. They were 2-8 now, 2-8 now. They're 3-8. They put a commanding victory against the Cardinals. Andy Dalton does get injured, so Matt Leinart finishes the game. But we can see there, both quarterbacks did average, but not the season the Cardinals want. I would say that Ken Wisenhunt is probably on the hot seat after these past few seasons where they've sometimes made the playoffs, sometimes did not. They try to get behind Andy Dalton. He did get them into the Super Bowl. Excuse me. And to the playoffs. He did get them to the playoffs. They had a good playoff run. But this season, nothing close to that. Losing to Tim Tebow with 300 yards for Tebow, 2 TDs, 151 yards for the rookie Isaiah Peed, 3 TDs. Just a blowout. Very embarrassing for the Cardinals. Then on Sunday Night Football, we have the Chargers squeaking out a victory over the Commanders. One of those where the Commanders were just a 2-point conversion away from winning the game, and they failed. And so Vic had 201 yards, no TDs or interceptions, but he did get 25 yards on the ground, and he rushed for 2 touchdowns. Goodson got 38 yards before getting injured. He had those first 4 attempts, had a pretty good success with those runs until he got injured. Ivory only got 32 after that. But Rodgers was 2 TDs with 223 yards, no turnovers, and Marion Barber, who's been doing fantastic for the injured Beanie Wells, gets 94 yards. And then on Monday Night Football, we have the defensive matchup here. Chicago Bears win 10-7. They controlled the game for the entire time. It was 10-0 for a while. And then near the end, we had the Ravens get that late game TD, Kaepernick there to Demaryius Thomas. But 6 of 16 was not great for Kaepernick. Even 5 and 11 was not good for Campbell. And Campbell had 3 interceptions. And Kaepernick had 1 interception. Then he had the one really, really bad fumble. Just like dropped the ball when he was approached. But Glenn Coffey got the rushing touchdown, which is all the Bears needed, and that extra field goal put them over the top. So when we look at the standings so far, Patriots, 10-game win streak, they're on their way. Jets are trying to pine their way in. They're very close. You see 5-5, trying to get over that hump. Browns have a 2-game lead over their division. Pittsburgh probably in that playoff hunt, playoff picture there. Cincinnati a little bit on the outside looking in. The Houston Texans are 7-4, winning their division. Colts behind them by 1 game. Titans in the similar position as the Bengals, but a little bit worse. Jaguars, number 1 pick likelihood. So that might be Eric Fisher, Luke Jokel. We'll see if they decide to go tackle. Actually, no, they probably won't go tackle because I think they did draft Matt Khalil last year. So maybe they'll go Deion Jordan or someone like that. And then there's Geno Smith, but I don't think I'll make Geno Smith the number 1 overall pick. But then you have the San Diego Chargers with 7-3. They're up by 2 games over the Broncos, who are 500. Raiders fall to 4-6. Chiefs also abysmal. We see the Philadelphia Eagles 3 games ahead in their division. Even though the Giants lost, they had a chance to go above the Commanders, but they are tied 5-5 with them. You can see the Commanders were 5-1, and they've gone on a 4-game losing streak. So Michael Vick has got to get it together. Chicago and the Vikings are neck and neck. We see the Packers 1 game behind them. So this is going to be an interesting division to watch because all 3 teams there have a chance to win the division. Very tight. Then Tampa Bay is still in control of their NFC South. However, the Falcons are chipping away. They were 3-4, which was not a good look for Peyton Manning and the Falcons, but they end up going only 2 games behind the Buccaneers. I do suspect the Buccaneers will bounce back from their bad performance against the Patriots. I suspect they'll be the number 1 team in the NFC, even though the Eagles and the 49ers are just now 1 game behind them. Speaking of the Niners, they're 8-3, so they're 3 games ahead of the Rams on that 3-game win streak. We see the Seattle Seahawks and Cardinals just falling short. As for stats, it's Manning, Brady, Breeze, McNabb, and then the other Manning leading the way there at the top 5. We look at passing touchdowns. Tom Brady leads it with Manning in the 30s, so they're having a very solid year already here, completing Week 11. Interception leaders, Andy Dalton's pretty bad. Whedon, Eli Manning, Freeman, and Griffin. Right, we see this top 5 turnover leaders, not great. And then you have Kaepernick and Freeman are number 1 sacked quarterbacks. Manning in the top, both Mannings in the top 5 too. So that's an interesting stat to see. Then you have Darren McFadden with 1,300 yards, beautiful season so far. Clinton Portis also over 1,000. Then you see the top 10 are all very close to getting their 1,000 yards in the season, and it's only heading into Week 12. Rushing, we see Chris Johnson still way ahead. McCoy and McFadden and Barber is now at 11 TDs. That's interesting. And Ahmad Bradshaw for the Broncos and Portis with the Jets, both with double-digit TDs. Receiving leaders, Greg Jennings with that 150-yard game really puts him over Calvin Johnson right now. So good for him. Ted Ginn, Brandon LaFell, which is interesting. I think it's because Eli Manning and the Seahawks are behind all the time that he keeps chucking the ball. So we have Brandon LaFell there. I like Josh Gordon there in the top 10. He's been having a great season, even just being the 3rd-string receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You see Tyvon Branch, Palomalu, Maluga, Kendricks, Waddle all in top tackles. Sacks there, Geno Atkins still in the lead there with 9.5. Interceptions, Antrell Roll now ties Justin Miller. We see Myron Lewis, Cresden Butler, Sensabaugh, Yabuti. There's a lot of 4 interception players there tied for number 5 there. Kicking we don't really normally care about, but here it is. You can take a pause of the screen if you want to take a look at where some of these kickers are. So yeah, we've got an interesting season coming on. We are getting to that second half. I think it's 7 more weeks. The Colts versus the Patriots is going to be an interesting game. I do think the Patriots are the favorites to win that one. So yay Texans for probably having a chance to increase their lead. But yeah, let me know if you like these videos. Feel free to like and subscribe if you want to see more content about this 32-team franchise and this alternate reality. Thanks for watching.